Okay, here we go, 2.8. So now we're going to be solving radical equations. We're not just going to be simplifying expressions, we're going to actually be solving. And then checking for extraneous solutions. Remember, those are ones that actually make it untrue. So a radical equation contains one or more radical expressions. You're always going to have an equal sign, that's what makes it an equation. So here's what we need to do. We need to get the radical alone. Then we're going to take both sides of the equation to the power that matches the index of the number. So if we have a square root, we're going to square both sides. If we have a cube root, we're going to cube both sides, and so forth. Then solve for the equation, and then check your solution. You've got to make sure you have no extraneous solutions. The answers may look good, but they may make the original equation true or false. So we need to check for that. So here we go. If you look at the example, example 1, let's do it in order. So we have our radical, x minus 4, and then there's a plus 2 outside of the radical. Okay? The radical only extends to over the 4. So that is the radical, then the 2 is extra. So to get the radical by itself, we're just going to do what we know how to do, subtract 2. Which is going to give us the square root of x minus 4. Remember to keep the radical. One of the biggest mistakes people make here is losing the radical somewhere along the way. That's going to give us 7. 9 minus 2 is 7. Now, since this is a square root, we're going to put the radical in parentheses and square it. That is going to get rid of, cancel out the square root, the radical. Just like multiplication undoes division, addition undoes subtraction, and vice versa, squaring and square rooting are undoing powers, operations. So this 2 here is going to get rid of that. But we need to do it over here also. So that's going to give us x minus 4 equals 49. Then we add 4 to both sides. And that gives us x is equal to 53. But we need to check our answer. So we take 53 and plug it in. 53 minus 4 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. This answer checks out. On number 2. Think of this as 2x plus 6 equals 1. What would you do to get x by itself? Well, you would subtract the 6 and divide by 2. Guess what? We're going to do the same thing here. Except there's going to be one extra step to get rid of the radical. So we're going to minus 6 from both sides. That's going to give me 2 radical x equals negative 5. Then we're going to divide by 2. And we're going to get the square root of x equals negative 5 halves. Now, the extra step is to square both sides. So what we do is, this undoes that. We get x equals, now, negative times negative is a positive. 5 squared is 25, and 2 squared is 4. Because remember, this is basically negative 5 halves times negative 5 halves, which is 25 over 4. Now we have to check that answer. So this one might be a little more difficult to do in our head, so let's come over here and do this. 2 square root of 25 over the square root of 4 plus 6 equals 1. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 4 is 2. Plus 6 equals 1. Now you can do 2 times 5 and get 10 divided by 2. Or you can look at it as the 2's canceling and you get 5. Either way, you're going to get 5 plus 6, 11 equal 1. That is not true. That means 25 fourths is extraneous. It's not a true answer. Even though it worked out right, meaning in the sense that we got a number, it is extraneous. Okay, so here we have a cube root. and then we have this extra minus 2. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. And that's going to leave me with the cube root of 4y minus 1 equals 3. Since this is a cube root, we're going to cube both sides. This makes this go away, leaving us 4y minus 1 equals 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Now we're right back to good old equation solving. 4y equals 28, divide by 4, y equals 7. Now we plug it back in and check. 7 right here times 4 is 28. Minus 1 is 27. The cube root of 27 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. This answer checks out. Example 4. The radical is already by itself. So what we need to do now is square both sides. What it leaves me is with 4x plus 12 equals x squared. Well, now we have to do some factoring. So we have to move these over to this side by subtraction, which is going to give me x squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. Now we're going to go back to some factoring from algebra 1. X and x. We need two numbers that are going to give me 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. One of them's got to be positive, one's got to be negative to get a negative answer. And then when we subtract them, we end up with negative 4. So this is the one that has a difference of 4. So we have 6 and 2. Now we want leftover negative, so that means we want this to be negative and this to be positive. That's equal to 0. Now we just go one step further and solve for 0. X equals negative 2, x equals positive 6. And now we go back and check these answers. This is what we're going to write out. So the square root of 4 times negative 2 plus 12 equals negative 2. And then the square root of 4 times 6 plus 12 equals 6. So this is negative 8 plus 12 equals negative 2, which right at the bat you should be able to say something's wrong because, well, never mind. Yeah, the square root of a number cannot be a negative number. You can never get a negative from a square root, but let's see what happens here. So this is the square root of 4 equals negative 2. That's a funky negative 2. And this is 2 equals negative 2, which is false. So negative 2 is an extraneous answer. Let's check out this one. Square root of 24 plus 12 equals 6. Square root of 36 equals 6. 6 equals 6 is true, so 6 is a valid answer. Okay, so we got a lot going on here. We have a cube root right here. It's being multiplied by 3 and added, increased by 2. Let's think about this. If we had negative 4 equals 3x plus 2, what would we get rid of first? The minus 2. Then we would divide by 3. Same thing here. Minus 2, both sides. That gives me negative 6 equals 3 times the cube root of 5y minus 1. Now I gotta get rid of the 3. Cancel. Get rid of the 3 by division. Negative 2 equals the cube root of 5y minus 1. Since this is a 3, I'm going to cube. I'm going to cube over here. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, times negative 2 is negative 8, equals 5y minus 1. Add 1 to both sides, and we get negative 7 equals 5. Divide by 5, y equals negative 7 over 5. Now we got to check that. So this is going to be a little more complicated, so let's write it out. We have negative 4 equals 3 times the cube root of 5 times negative 7/5 minus 1, extend that radical, plus 2. So let's do the math now. Check it out. So the 5's cancel here, which is going to give me negative 4 equal to 3 times the cube root of negative 7 minus 1, which is negative 8, plus 2. Well, the cube root of negative 8 is negative 2. So that's negative 4 equals 3 times negative 2 plus 2. Negative 4, I'm getting ahead of myself, equals negative 6 plus 2. Negative 4 equals negative 4, check. So that means negative 7/5 is a valid answer. We get to keep it. Okay, now, if both sides contain a radical, then either square both sides for square roots or cube both sides for cube roots. So we're going to do one of each, I believe. Yes. So we're almost done. Okay, I need you to change this problem. Sorry. You change it to the square root of 3x minus 5. So we're going to square both sides because they're both square roots. That's going to give me 2x plus 5 equals 3x minus 5. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And that's going to give me x equals 10. Now remember, I need to check this answer to make sure it works. So let's plug it in. 2 times 10 plus 5 equals 3x minus 5. Square root. I don't know why I didn't put the 10 there. Equals square root of 3 times 10 minus 5. Okay, so that's going to give me the square root of 2 times 10 is 20, plus 5 is 25, and 3 times 10 is 30, minus 5 is 25. 5 equals 5, check. So x equals 10 is a valid solution. Last but not least, we're going to cube both sides because of the cubic root. That's going to give me 5x minus 2 equals 2x plus 13. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. What that gives me is 3x equals 15. Divide by 3, and x is 5. Now we got to check it. So we do the cube root of 5 times 5 minus 2 equals the cube root of 2 times 5 plus 13. So that gives me the cube root of 25 minus 2 is 23, equal to the cube root of 2 times 5 is 10, plus 13 is 23. We could calculate that down to a decimal, but you can obviously see that the cube root of 23 is equal to the cube root of 23, so it checks out. X equals 5 is a valid solution.